The Adventure Theater in Glen Echo, Maryland is getting ready to celebrate the birthday of America's favorite cat, Garfield, with a new musical called Garfield, the Musical with Catitude.
So what was the most challenging thing about bringing this iconic character to stage?
Well, I think the real challenge of the script is a character who doesn't want to do anything except sleep and eat, and really has many unpleasant characteristics. How do you make him the center of a show and make him absolutely as lovable as Garfield is? Well, I think Michael Bobbitt, the author, has done an incredible job of that in making the character really as lovable and irresistible as Garfield is, while giving him nothing more to do than sleep and eat. And casting Evan helped too.
So is it hard to be lazy?
Well, it's the laziness comes rather naturally, I think. But I think that the hard part, I think, is that Garfield is such an iconic character. It's so well known in our culture for more than 30 years. So I think there are a lot of while you're creating something new for the first time on stage, there are still a lot of cues to pick up from the cartoons, from the comic strips, etc., that you want to honor while making it your own. So trying to find that balance is probably, while not necessarily the biggest challenge, certainly something that we're trying to aspire to get.
One thing I'm excited about is your speaking voice for this. Do you have a particular character voice that you do, or is it just your natural speaking voice?
I'm experimenting with a lot of things. I think it's certainly my own voice, but I think that it has many different colors, and as Garfield goes through a variety of different emotions through his adventure in this story, I think it reaches all levels in the spectrum. But I think that part of what makes Garfield great is that he, as Nick alluded to in our first rehearsal, he's sort of the id that we all aspire to be when no one is watching, and so I think that's something that everyone can connect to. So in reality, he's sort of part of all of us, and so I think there's something that really human there that will help in terms of just allowing my own voice to come forth.
Well, as we touched on before, I really see Garfield as the embodiment of the id. I mean, he is what we'd all like to be, just the person who walks in and says, "Serve my needs, take care of me." But the thing is, he's so attractive that people want to do that. And I actually, in reading one of the recent biographies of Frank Sinatra, I thought, in many ways, Garfield is Frank Sinatra. The guy who walks into the room, knows he's the coolest thing in the room, expects everyone to bow to him, and expects everyone to just worship at his altar, but at the same time he's so charming that we want to do that. And Evan embodies that. I mean, Evan is so incredibly laid back, and I mean, you see Mr. Cool Evan here, but he can turn on a dime and do these huge comic things that are absolutely rooted in reality. So you really understand what's going on in Garfield's mind while he makes these huge leaps of logic and everything else that he makes, but it's all very much in a Garfield world, because Evan is such a self-contained, I've worked with Evan before, self-contained, confident, complete performer, that he can bring that persona onto the stage. And it works perfectly. I mean, it was a big stretch of imagination to cast someone this thin and fit as Garfield. Don't worry, there's a little padding involved. But Evan just embodies that ultimate cool that Garfield has that we'd all love to have.
And if I can I don't know if you were going to segue into what makes Nick great for this show, but if I can piggyback on that a little bit.
I didn't pay him.
No, I think that what's great is that Nick comes into any show with an immediate plan, and any director that you want to guide you in any sort of process, you want to know where he's guiding you, and Nick always has that, and he's very clear, particularly comedically, which is very important. Not all directors have that, is the sense of the comic timing, the sense of knowing how to set up the joke, how to land the joke, and also we have a couple of young actors in our cast who are brilliant, and Nick is particularly great at working with them, which is wonderful to be a part of. And also, just selfishly for me, it's great to have someone who I can collaborate with, dialogue with, and bounce ideas back and forth off of, and not have someone get tired of my questions and my incessant need to work through things and just listen to me and have myself validated, like Garfield. Have my ideas be validated.
I mean, I thought we had a conversation actually in rehearsal last night where it's really like we were talking about Hamlet. I mean, I was saying, how much comfort is Garfield getting from Pookie at this moment?
Right.
Is it able to solve the problem, or does he still have a need?
Right.
And anyone watching us would have thought we were talking
right.
about...
And I'm in my chair, like with my hand about my face, like desperately trying to figure out what it could be. Yeah.
And all the time looking at this teddy bear and thinking about this teddy bear, and I kept thinking it was like Hamlet with the skull. You know? What does this mean to me? How does this relate to my life? But it's great. It's that sense of reality that Evan brings to it that makes Garfield real. Not just a stuffed cartoon cat, but a spirit that we recognize as dwelling inside of us, that we now get to see liberated and run amok upon the stage. I love doing theater for young audiences because I want them to walk out, I want children to walk out saying, this is a great thing. I want to do more of this. Mm-hmm. And I always try to make my productions low tech so that they can go home and act them out in their basement. That they'll want to go home and say, I've got a cardboard box, let's make a stage and I want to put on a show. That's what I want the kids walking out, so that they become the audiences of the future, they become the performers of the future, and they realize the creativity that's in them that they can release without having a video game, without having a screen in front of them, that they can take, 4 plastic barrels and a cardboard box and make a world out of it. That's what I want them to come out thinking about.
I wanted to find something that the younger kids could hook onto and relate to with Garfield, because he's a bit of a surly character, and most of us think of him as maybe a little bit older, but Jim and his wife Jill Davis think of him as a teenager. But even a teenager maybe doesn't relate to our young audience members. So I figured birthday parties. Every kid loves a birthday party, and so we just went with that idea as a plot point.
That is wonderful. So what was the biggest challenge in writing this?
Oh, there were many. One, there's a very recognizable brand. I had to read every comic strip from the opening in 1976, which was every day for that many years. And also, when Jim writes the comic strips, he writes in cells, 4 little cells, and the reader is filling in the blanks with what the other characters are doing. We can't do that on stage. It's right there in front of you. So how do you connect these really great one-liners into a story? How do you make dialogue out of it? Again, Garfield's a bit of a surly character, and he's like a Scrooge, and so Scrooge has to be warm and lovable. The other sort of fun challenge was I was sort of using other comic strips as a jumping off point for how to adapt the musical, and so I really wanted Odie to have songs and dialogue and words, and Jim Davis said Odie does not speak human. And so after writing all these great ideas for Odie, he was like, no, he can't speak human, he can only say dog stuff. So then I thought, we have to write a musical where he has to sing, and he has to sing in group numbers, but only dog language. The other thing that happened is we were still trying to find ways to warm Garfield up and make him more sympathetic and sort of this anti-hero, and we decided to put Pookie in the show, and Garfield, the only person in the whole world that Garfield expresses love for is his teddy bear Pookie. So we added that, and that really did it. That really did it for us. The biggest message is home is where the heart is. Love the people you're around, appreciate them, appreciate all the things that they do for you. Even when they make mistakes, it's okay.